Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I know it's been a little while, but I have brought an amazing guest today. I'm so excited. We have the artist, the author, the reviewer, the legend, Madam Crystal Butterfly, with us today for a live chat. Welcome, Madam. Thank you for hopping onto the channel.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for that lovely introduction.
I'm so excited that you're here. For those who do not already follow Madam Crystal Butterfly, your books are amazing. You have these fairy tale retelling and fantasy books, which are just great. And we'll talk a little bit about those. Madam Crystal Butterfly is one of the reasons I added a frog prince to one of my books last year. So thank you for that challenge.
Yeah, that's on my list of books to read. I also have a certain other book you wrote that I need to read.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. And you read so many other people's books. But before we jump into all of that and your writing, why don't you tell those of us who are watching who don't know who you are yet a little bit about your writing and how you got into this booktuber, book talk world?
Well, I'll be honest with you, doing this whole booktuber social media thing is not something I ever envisioned myself doing. Actually, when social media was first making the rounds, I was scared of it because even my friend and I were talking about me being scared of it because she was one of the people who pushed me on. Another friend forced me on, but she was one of the people really pushing me to be more active on it for years. And in the beginning, I was scared because there were incidents like, I don't know if you heard about this, but a teacher got fired because she posted a photo of herself on Facebook taking a drink on her own time, not in school. And I
Mm.
was terrified of it. And I was in early college, and I just told myself, be a ghost on social media. Don't go getting involved in all this mess. You don't need to be doing all of that. And my priority back then was getting my degree, going to law school, and possibly going into business law. That was my focus. That was my plan. And as the saying goes, you make plans and God throws his head back and laughs because all my plans ended up going in a different direction. Because sadly,
Um,
when I was near the end of college, one of my uncles got stomach cancer. This was followed later by my grandmother's breast cancer coming back. And then during my last year, my father was diagnosed with brain cancer.
mm.
And so things were kind of taking a hit and chaotic in my house. So another student was advising me that why don't you do paralegal for a while? They'll help prepare you for the law. You'll get immersed in it and you'll get a nice, good paycheck. So I was going to do that. But things were just so chaotic, I couldn't jump onto it because my brother would even sit me down and say, listen, you are an adult, you're out of school, you need to be doing this, that, and the other thing and getting your career started. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm having no arguments there. But every time we tried to get serious about me doing paralegal because everybody else was sick, things just got too chaotic. And sadly, my uncle, then my grandmother, and lastly, my father passed away.
I'm so sorry. Mm.
Thank you. But during that entire chaotic time, and it was really rough for me, all I had was my writing. The one thing that could
Mm.
not be taken away from me was my writing. And I first started a book called Bloody Crown, which is not done yet. It's going to be a while before you get to see that.
So we have one we can look forward to.
Yep. But the second book I started writing, even though it's the second book that came out, was my book Violet Evergreen and the Seeds of Rebellion, which was inspired by a story that I didn't like. And I got an idea of why don't I write a better story while working on Bloody Crown. Now I was working on Violet and Bloody Crown at this time. And
Mm.
you know, when you first get in the author game, you're approached by the scammers first before you find the real people who will warn you. And I was
Yes.
being harassed by vanity publishers every day, especially when doing research, because I have a friend, her name is Shalise Hurd. She works with autism and the neurodivergent community to help push people on the who are considered on the spectrum up and
Mm.
help them find more opportunity. She actually has, I think, 4 books written and she's working on a 5th. She and I, at the same time, were doing some research into writing. And as I mentioned, the vanity publishers got us. And they were calling
Mm.
me nonstop. They were calling her nonstop. We're trying to research who can we trust, and they're just calling, calling, calling. So I make the decision to, hey, there's this book meeting. Why don't I go there? And at the meeting, they said, you should write a shorter book in addition to your big book to help you get some stuff out there and help pad out your thing. And you know what I was doing? I was like, no, I am not doing that. You think I have time for this? I got 2 books I'm trying to write and all this thing. And then when I was leaving the meeting, like a brick to the face, I got the idea for the Curse of the Frog Prince books, which are a part of my Butterfly Tales series, which is my alternative fairy tale series.
Wow.
And the second I got the idea, I was like, oh, wow, guess I have to write this. I have no say in this matter.
Oh, don't you just love it when a good story hijacks everything you're doing?
Yeah. I tell my friends with kids this. I tell them I should have done something easy like be a parent. They're like, oh, really? Parenting's that's easy? I'm like, yeah, because sooner or later, that baby's going to go to sleep. And you'll get a break. The book never shuts up.
Oh, goodness. And then, those of us who write and have kids, it's like, they're asleep. Okay, now it's time to deal with the book. Yes, but exactly right. The characters are there, even when you're dreaming. Here's another story idea. And hello, everybody who's joining. If you are watching live and you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and I will pull them up on the screen. And if you're watching the replay, you can leave questions in the comments and I will make sure that those get to Madam Crystal Butterfly as well. But that's a good place to say, if you're following the video and you haven't already checked out Madam Crystal Butterfly's YouTube channel, she has one that has some great writing journey videos as well as book reviews of other indie authors. So you can check all of that out there too. But I wanted to go back to what you said about how when you started out, it was almost the reverse of what I hear a lot of authors say about them starting out with fan fiction and then going from fan fiction to writing their own books. Yours was, I read this book and I felt like there was things that could have been better. And so you wrote your own version.
Yeah, well, it was actually one of those story apps. I don't know if you heard of Episode.
Oh, yeah.
That story app, I was reading a story and it was one of those things where you would even read it and say, oh, there's some good ideas here. But they pull the story out nonstop. Mm-hmm. And it goes on for longer than it needs to. And it adds elements. It has lack of elements and could have been done better. And my brain was like, I could do a better job with this.
That's really interesting. I know it's a totally different writing style to write for that periodic release, like chapter by chapter release on things like Kindle Vella. And I honestly have dabbled in Kindle Vella, but not done much with it. How did that aspect of writing play into your fairy tale retellings? Was it also looking at things that you could strengthen in a story, told through your lens?
I would say the stories come to me at random. Like Bloody Crown, I did make an attempt to write a book when I was 19. And if you read that, you would be wondering, how on earth did I write this? You'd be like, how did that turn down? Somebody who wrote that turn into something like this? Because my writing was atrocious back then. And I'm losing my train of thought. What's the question again? I don't know why it just zoomed down to my head.
Oh, just that taking a story that you know well and then strengthening it through your own lens, really.
Yeah, thank you. What happens is I will start out trying to fix that story and then it will morph into something entirely new and completely different. Like with Bloody Crown, I don't know what inspired it, but it was something. Oh, wait, I remember. It was Blood the Last Vampire? No, yes. Blood X. The one with the girl with the samurai sword.
Yeah, Blood the Last Vampire was, I think I watched the movie for that one before I ever watched any of the anime for it or read any manga for it. But yeah.
Yeah, that one was initially started from there. Then it changed and the story would be completely unrecognizable to where it even started from.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing happened with Violet. My brain was trying to fix errors in that story and it turned into an entirely new story that I found way more exciting.
Mm-hmm. So do you find yourself doing more pantsing because of those changes, or is it all planned out and the changes are coming up as you're planning it?
I would say I do more pantsing. It starts out with plotting just so I have a scope. So if I feel like I'm getting too out there, I can pull myself back and remember where I was going with the story. But for
Mm-hmm.
the most part, I write down certain bullet points that I need to hit with the story and the direction it needs to go in. And then I just pants the rest of it going all the way through. And if I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm losing the point or anything else, then I can just go and check my notes or my
Mm.
outline that I wrote.
Yeah, that's awesome. A little bit of a mix. You know where the story's going to go, and then it's finding out all the juicy details along the way.
Yeah.
So you started writing while going through this big period of loss and grieving. And then the vanity presses, like you said, me too, the vanity presses are quick to jump on you when they even suspect you're Googling anything related to publishing. Here are the vanity presses.
Yeah, they actually
Um,
called me a few weeks ago.
oh, gosh. Oh, goodness. I want to come back to vanity presses in a little bit for the sake of authors who are watching this. But I was wondering what made you decide to open up about something so personal on the social media, which you said you had been avoiding.
Well, when I first started to do this thing, I still wanted to be more secretive about this, but I also know that if you want to hear about my author journey, if I don't tell part of what really pinpointed and pushed me to do it, all you'll get is I went to an author's meeting, felt like a brick hit me, and I thought of a frog. But I realized that if I'm going to let my audience know a little bit about who I am and what happened, then I have to admit, yes, I was scared of social media. I was determined to stay away from it. But my life just took a twist in a way that I had to start to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, that's important to know because we make plans, we say we're going to do this, that, and the other thing, but a lot of times life will take things crash down. And if we're not willing to try something new or do something different, we will be stuck in something we don't want to be in.
So true. And I'm very similar to you. I was not the most into social media before I started my author journey. And I remember my mentor telling me, based on the genre of fantasy you write, you need to plug into Instagram. And I was scared to death. I didn't even have a personal Instagram. So I signed up for Instagram. I was like, what do I post? What do I do? I started following other authors, and the community that I have found there has been just so refreshing and encouraging and positive, both from the readers and the writers. And I mean, wherever there's social, there's always going to be a little drama, but it's still been, for the most part, very wholesome. Um, and you have really blown it out of the park going to YouTube. Really, congratulations on your
Yeah.
success with YouTube. You
Yeah,
have
my
so
cousin
many.
nagged me to do it, and I was like, no, no, no. And then I was like, then I realized the writing on the wall, and I'm like, wow, I'm going to have to do that too. Dang it.
Oh, so how do you balance everything between real life and writing and YouTubing and just everything? How do you find time?
Well, what I write, have a schedule book. And with books like one I'm coming out with this year, Realms the Hidden Fairy.
Ooh, I love
Glad,
that cover.
glad you like it. Yeah, with this one, okay, I'm publishing this year Realms the Hidden Fairy, which is coming out July 21st. But I also have another story, Goblin's Labyrinth, which cover reveal will come soon on my channel. And go the other way. This thing. You deal with, oh, did it not even cut? Wow, you don't even want to show it. Wow, thank you, technology.
That's all right.
But
But Goblin's Labyrinth, is that a
and
labyrinth
another book.
retelling?
Oh no, it's not a fairy book retelling. It's a portal fantasy,
Oh, yay.
urban
That's one
portal
of my
fantasy.
vibes right there. Portal fantasy. Yay.
Yep, and the last one is Wedded Bliss. And if you think that's a romance novel, then you don't know me very well. I don't write romance novels. If anything, you should never trust me to do that. But yeah, the last book, is Wedded Bliss. That's also I'm going to do a cover reveal one day when it's closer to being done. Actually, Wedded Bliss is coming out right after Realms the Hidden Fairy. And how I schedule things is I have several books that I'm writing. I have, like, if you saw my files where I say everything, you'd be wondering why on earth I got the idea to write all of these books. But what I do is I put them in order. I ask which book is most likely going to be done first. And I line them up between which will be done first and which will be done last. And then I give myself a limit of how many books I'm allowed to write a year. I have to ask myself, is this too much for me to finish? Is this going to overwhelm me? Because if I don't feel like this is going to get finished this year, I can slate it for next year. It's only a problem if I put on Amazon pre-order early. So I can slate it for next year. And then I look at the other books I'm reading. And people send me a book. The people who sent me a book are first in line. The people whose books I want to read, which are mostly indie authors, come in after the people who sent me books. And then there's traditionally published books that I also pick up. They're usually in third place, and that's just something I'm interested in reading. And I schedule, okay, let me get the people whose books I read, who sent me their book, and read them first. And I just make time every evening for 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours a night to sit down, read. And then when I'm done with the book, I have people send me questionnaires and a photo, and I go through their questionnaire and read what their responses to my questions, and I start on my script from there. And then when I finish the book, I finish the script with my thoughts, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and finally the butterfly score. And when I score you, I'm doing it from the average reader. I'm not doing it from hyper crazy critic, because an extreme critic will nitpick things you and I will never think of. We were just reading the book. We enjoyed it. I do it more from the average reader, and I think about, did I enjoy this? Why did I enjoy this? Was there something I felt took away from my enjoyment of the book? Was there something that really I personally feel hurt the story? Or like, if there is an author who did write several things that are racially insensitive and or they're being closed-minded, that would be something that would hurt their score. Because for the most part, I rate this on, was this a fun read? Did the author think this story through, or was it all over the place? I'm not quick to chop an author's score if I can tell they legitimately wrote a good book. It only happens if somewhere in their writing it was just that bad and it's not something I can ignore, or if there's a moral issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of great golden advice there. And I really appreciate you sharing that, especially the part about knowing as an indie author what you have the bandwidth to take on. Because I think a lot of us get in there and maybe we have a book we're on fire about and we treat it like a sprint instead of the marathon that it is. And it's like, yeah, this book's going to be done, but then there's going to be another book waiting and another book waiting and another book waiting. And if you don't find a realistic way to balance that, you will burn out. And I think that your patience with your writing and giving yourself time to actually read and enjoy books and look at them as a reader and not a writer, not an editor, not a critic, is really what makes your reviews so valuable. I say as a reader, I have picked up several of the books you have recommended because I know your reviews are honest, but they're also looking at it as a person and as a reader, this is why I'm going to enjoy this book. So I appreciate the time you put into it.
They did not detail this particular era in history properly. And I don't care if it's historical fiction. You have to list this. We don't have time for that. I read a book for fun.
Yes. Oh, goodness. So you have so much going on. I know you're pacing yourself and you've got the books that you're getting ready to come out. You've got the 3 that you mentioned with us. Do you plan on doing any live events this year?
No, I don't, because I don't usually do a whole lot of live.
I totally relate. Introverts. I think a lot of us writers are introverts.
Yeah, because I don't
Yeah.
mind doing live interviews, but if you want me to start a live thing, I get so paranoid about the signal going on because you don't know. I always have severe issues with Zoom. Like I was being
Mm-hmm.
interviewed by another author, Peter Okonkwo. He interviews a lot of independent authors and reviews a lot of books as well. And he was setting up for us to do the Zoom call, and Zoom kicked me out. I
Oh,
had to go back in. There was all, and it's like on and off until we finally got it to work. And the same thing happened with another book reviewer. Her name is Brittany's. Was it Brittany's Books and a Beer? She
hmm.
also has a lot of good recommendation, and she also likes to hunt down a lot of indie authors to recommend for people to read. I found some good books through her. When I was talking to her, it was at the very end of the interview. It kicked me out. Then I logged back in. We're like, okay, it's working. Then it kicked me out again.
Oh no. Oh, technology.
Yeah, don't you
So,
just love it?
yes. So, if you want to follow Madam Crystal Butterfly, you can go click on the link in the description box. I have the YouTube link there. I also have Madam Crystal Butterfly's link tree there and Instagram there. So that way you can check out her books, her reviews, social media, and everything and get all the sneak peeks on what's coming. I wanted to circle back before we left to the Vanity Press situation you had with other authors or for other authors. If someone's watching this and they're inspired that you did this, even though your life was on a different course and you embraced the author side of yourself and you're doing a fantastic job,
Thank you.
how do you know when a press is a real press, when it's a vanity press, and when you should just go indie? What was that like for you?
It was frustrating at first because the vanity press was lying to me too much, but real authors told me the one thing I need to know how to avoid vanity presses altogether. If
Hmm.
they ask you for money, stay the hell away from them. They're trying to trick you because real publishers don't ask you for a dime, whether they're independent or traditional. They will never ask you for any money. A vanity press will, and they will trick you. I've heard about them stealing. I actually made a whole video ranting about this on my YouTube channel, but they will, some of them will steal your book. I found another author complaining because they were saying they're supposed to print out his book and they printed out several copies of Mein Kampf,
Hmm.
and it's just a mess. Just all you need to know is never ever pay for publishing. How can they ask you for a dime, even if it's a penny? You just say nope, goodbye, have a nice life.
And I think that's one of the things that my mentor told me too. She was like, a real publisher should pay you. And the same thing for agents. If you're going to go get agented, that an agent gets cuts of what you will make on your book. You don't pay the agent up front. And so I'm not a traditionally published author myself, although I've worked with several as an editor. I would say this is also, yeah, watch out for when they want a lot of cash up front. But
Yeah,
would you be open to going traditional later on down the line with any of your books?
maybe it'd be a tough fight for me because I'm a little bit of a control freak with my stories. Because I know the second you give it to a traditional publisher, you probably won't have to compromise on everything, but there's a lot you're going to have to compromise. And I like the freedom of getting to do whatever I want.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest pros. I mean, we have a lot of work that we carry on our shoulders, but we also have all the creative control of the covers and the everything. Um, but I am so excited to have had you on. I really appreciate you sharing with us just about your origin story. I know that's uh, loss is something that comes to all of us at some point, and just to see you come out of a loss with the beautiful stories you have is so incredibly inspiring. So I appreciate you sharing that.
No problem. If you have a book idea, you can't just sit on it. You need to write it. And for any authors possibly watching, I'm addressing you guys directly right now. If you have a book and you're struggling to get it reviewed, just contact me and I will give you a free, thorough in-depth, spoiler-free book review.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And book
Go.
reviewers too. Other people that you normally wouldn't pay. Just saying.
Yeah.
But
Then you have to watch because a lot of them will help, but every once in a while you meet that one jerk who's just looking to do that. So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
it's a real crapshoot, which is one of the reasons why I even started the YouTube channel, because I was realizing, oh, this is a mess. Let me do something to help out my peers.
Well, you have been a fantastic pillar in this community, a major inspiration. If you're watching too, there are a couple other panels that Madam Crystal Butterfly has joined me on that I would love for you guys to check out. The links to those should be on my YouTube channel. And we will be back next week with another Indie Author Live Chat. Thank you so much, Madam Crystal Butterfly. I hope you have a great day.
You too, and thank you so much for having me.
Take care, everybody.